I have a friend, her name is spelled exactly the same way as yours, but it's
Yeah.
pronounced Callie.
Yeah, as it should be. My name was spelled wrong.
Kaylee, it's okay, awesome. That's good to know. I'm glad I know that.
Yes. Thanks for hopping on with me.
Of course, yeah, I'm grateful for the opportunity.
Yes, yes. I have been wanting to reach out for so long. I admire your work. I admire your voice and your presence when you talk about the things that you talk about. Is you're just so passionate. So this is my very first interview for my Coffee with Kaylee series. So welcome and thank you for helping me get that going.
Oh, that's so awesome. I'm happy to be the first one on here, and I'm grateful because I love your work, and the feeling is very much mutual. So thank you for those kind words.
Thank you. Okay, so I will go ahead and introduce you. So for everyone watching, Ben Azadi, top 15 podcast host of Keto Kamp. So he is on a mission to help 1 billion people live a healthier lifestyle. Ben is the author of 3 best-selling books, The Perfect Health Booklet, The Intermittent Fasting Cheat Sheet, and The Power of Sleep. Ben is the founder of Keto Kamp, the go-to resource for intermittent fasting and the ketogenic diet. He is known as the health detective because he investigates dysfunction and educates, not medicates, to bring the body back to normal function. I love that so much. So tell us a little bit about you and Keto Kamp.
Yeah, well, thank you for that introduction. So Keto Camp is my company. We are on a mission to educate 1 billion people on this information on health, on these ancient healing strategies like keto and fasting, and so many of these tools that are available to us that could really help the body heal. So we do that online through various outlets like our podcast, the YouTube channel, interviews like this, and showing up every single day and getting the message out on a consistent basis is our mission.
When did you discover keto in your life?
I discovered it in 2013, 2014. Actually, I was transitioning from a vegan diet, plant-based, for a year and a half, and it didn't work for me. It only worked for me for the first few months, and then it decided to pivot out of that because my health was suffering. And that's where I started getting into some research on a high-fat, low-carbohydrate diet. So it was back in 2013, 2014, where a lot of people were not really talking about it. It wasn't the number one search term on Dr. Google like it is today.
Yeah.
But that's where I started to really experiment with the ketogenic lifestyle.
What is the passion that drives you to do the work that you do?
Yeah, well, when we look around, we live in a sick, not just nation, but a sick world. So a lot of people are going through diseases that are not necessary. Just for example, in America, the rates of cancer, 1 out of 3 women get cancer in their lifetime. 1 out of 2 men are diagnosed with cancer in their lifetime. We have autism that's out of control. We have obesity and diabetes. It's just sickening out there. And a lot of these diseases are lifestyle diseases that we're not meant to have. I believe that we were created to thrive, to not just survive. So what inspires me is to get the message out there, to let people know that the greatest physician in the world lies within the human body. And we have access to this physician 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And it's unfortunate that the conventional approach fails to neglect that there's a cause and an effect. So a symptom that somebody experiences, whether it's fatigue, whether it's cancer, whether it's diabetes, that just does not show up overnight. It has been decisions that have been made over the years that accumulate into something, a disaster, right? So there's a cause and an effect. So what inspires me to help empower people to investigate that cause, remove the interference, and help their body heal themselves.
I love that. I love that you are very intentional about the work that you do and you're not just jumping on some kind of bandwagon. You really do investigate. And that's why I trust you so much, just because when I first came across your content, I think it was on LinkedIn. And
Yeah.
by the way, you dominate all the platforms, which is amazing. So LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, guys, you can catch him anywhere. But when I first came across your content, you can really tell that you know what you're talking about. Like you had a whiteboard and you're drawing it out and you're really explaining things in such detail, but on a level that everyone can digest and understand. So I really do appreciate that where you're working from is from passion, but it's really educational, like you said, and proof, scientific proof that you've done your research on.
Yeah, thank you, Kelly. I appreciate that. That's the goal, to take these scientific terms and kind of curate it into some actionable steps. So I received that acknowledgement with open arms. Thank you.
Yes, definitely. Can you recall a specific moment in your life upbringing that was significant in who you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. It was back in 2008 where I was going through my rock bottom. This is where I was obese in my life. For most of my life, I was obese. This point was a turning point for me because I was rock bottom now. I was 24 years old back in 2008, going through a really bad breakup where my ex-girlfriend broke up with me. And I was lost in life, not living on purpose with my purpose like I am doing today. Didn't have any direction. I didn't know how to deal with the loss of my girlfriend leaving me. So I was depressed and I was actually suicidal and looking on the internet for ways to end my life because I was tired of crying every single day. And I would think of my mother and what I would leave behind for her. And I didn't want to do that to her. So it stopped me from pursuing that. And this is the point in my life where, for the first time ever, I took responsibility for my circumstances. And it started with reading books. Like you see the books behind me. I started to read authors like Wayne Dyer and Bob Proctor.
Yes.
Uh,
I love
Amazing, right? And
that. Yeah.
yes, and it just opened me up to a whole new world, but it helped me realize that I am responsible. It's not my enabling family members or my genetics or my slow metabolism or everything else that I was blaming my circumstances on. So it allowed me to realize that I am responsible, and it put me in the driver's seat because up until this point, I was the victim of my past. But when I started reading these books, it helped me realize I'm actually the victor of my future. And it starts with just my thoughts and my daily actions, right? So I started to just develop healthier daily actions. And you fast forward 9 months from that decision to take responsibility, I lost 80 pounds. So I went from
Wow.
250 pounds down to 170 pounds. I
Wow.
went from 34% body fat to 6% body fat. And I finally, for the first time ever, carved out a physical six pack, which was a goal for me back then. Being that
Yeah.
fat kid growing up, I never had it. But I always say what was more important was I carved out a mental six pack, and I would take that over a physical one any day of the week. And that's where it all really started and shifted for me into the health space.
That's amazing. That is very amazing, and I applaud you for that because there are some people who can just obtain a lot of knowledge and never really get that light bulb to make the choice right then and there to start taking actionable steps towards a better future and changing who you are and leaving everything that you know about yourself from years of conditioning to then entering into that new level of clarity and completely different person. That's awesome.
Thank
Congratulations
you.
on that. So, getting to the topic of coffee, when did you first discover that you loved coffee?
Mm. Just hearing that word coffee it inspires me.
Right?
I love that word. I could smell it right now.
Yep.
Yeah. So when did I first discover it? It was probably back in 2010 when I started actually drinking coffee for the first time. So I was probably 26 years old,
Okay.
and I immediately fell in love with it because every time the first sip of coffee I had this inspiration that followed, and I had this energy, of course. But that's where I started to really experiment with coffee, and I started to drink it on a consistent basis. So back when I was 26 years old, about 8 years ago or so.
All right. So, on to your expertise. I want to know a few things about how it affects your health. So, since you're the educator, you're the one who does the detective work, and obviously you still drink it, you still love it, and you still live and lead a very healthy lifestyle. So, tell us, in your opinion and knowledge, what are the top pros of coffee?
Yeah, well, its antioxidant content is huge. It's loaded. Coffee beans are loaded in antioxidants, and that's so important because we know that every single disease out there, the root cause is too much inflammation, too much oxidation, and it's important to have these natural antioxidants like you get from coffee beans. So that's one of my favorite benefits. You know that it's going to help reduce inflammation, which could show up in various ways. It could help with joint pain. Maybe you have inflammation in your joints and you're having some coffee, and those antioxidants could help with the joint pain. I personally, my favorite benefit is how it makes my brain feel. I mean, it just like supercharges my brain
Yep.
and I'm ready to rock and roll. As an entrepreneur, you can relate to this. Like, it's
Yep.
important to be firing at all cylinders as an entrepreneur. So when I have that sip and I see you agree with me, it just turn your brain right on?
Oh my gosh. Yes. Like I feel like I can take over the world. Yep.
Yeah. So, and there is a scientific reasoning behind that? Well, there's a study that showed, this is great for those who are following a ketogenic lifestyle. There was a study that showed that the participants who had coffee versus the participants who didn't, those who had the coffee, the caffeine doubled their ketone production. And
Really?
this, yeah, so it helped them get double the quicker into ketosis, which we know that when you are producing these ketones, it fuels your brain, which is a fatty organ, with a powerful energy source. So if you are practicing a keto lifestyle, not everybody is, but if you are, you could definitely utilize that caffeine from coffee beans to help your ketone production, which also helps with your brain function.
Interesting. Yeah. So I felt it naturally, and I've kind of followed keto before. I definitely noticed that clarity that you're talking about and how quickly it can really catapult you into that ketosis state. That's very interesting. I didn't know that it assisted with that.
Yeah, it does. And then I also put in some healthy fats with my coffee. I'll throw
Uh,
in some like MCT oil or some grass-fed butter, which is just a healthy source of fat, saturated fat, which the body and the brain loves. So for me, my morning cup of, like, I call it a fatty cup of coffee,
yeah.
it's my go-to. I don't even have breakfast. That's all I have until later on in the afternoon. And that fires me up and gives me enough energy and resources to get through my day and crush my day. So it's the antioxidants, it's the brain function, and it tastes damn good. I mean, let's face it, I love the smell and taste of coffee.
Yeah.
Those are some of my favorite benefits of it.
Is there a specific brand or a specific balance of something that you're adding to it?
Yeah. So the way I make mine, I put a tablespoon of MCT oil. So
Okay.
MCT stands for medium chain triglyceride.
Mhm.
And 60% of coconut oil is MCT. So you could either use a tablespoon of coconut oil or you could get the actual extraction of the MCT oil. But I use the MCT oil because it gives you a quicker hit of energy. The unique thing about MCT oils is that it does not have to, the body doesn't have to digest it, meaning it bypasses digestion and goes right into the mitochondria of your cells and your brain cells. So it gives you immediately a hit of energy. Combine that with the caffeine and the coffee bean, it's double the effect right there. So I use that, and then I use a tablespoon of grass-fed ghee, and I also put some sea salt in my coffee as well. I do those three things.
Why do you do that?
I do it because coffee, especially if you're doing a ketogenic lifestyle, you lose electrolytes on keto. But
Yeah.
even if you weren't, coffee is a diuretic, meaning it'll cause you to go to the bathroom, which is not a bad thing because it helps you feel lighter.
Yeah.
But along with that could go some of the electrolytes. So I just do it as a way to replenish my electrolytes as I lose some of it.
Would you recommend coconut cream, pure coconut cream? Is that a recommendation, or what do you
Yeah,
know?
you could do that as well. Yeah,
Okay.
that's a healthy fat as well. So if you prefer that taste, I think you'll get much more bang for your buck by doing the coconut oil and the coconut and the butter instead,
Yeah.
because I think because the coconut cream or the coconut milk might have a little bit of some carbohydrates, which might take away from that.
Okay.
But any of those options are fine in my book.
Yeah. Okay. What about for those who are not on keto? Do you recommend that they also can enjoy this fat burning coffee every morning?
Yeah, I think it's a great choice, a great option to have that instead of like a high carb breakfast. If somebody just made one switch in their life to switch away from a big carbohydrate loaded breakfast and just had a fatty coffee, that right there, without doing anything else, you'll get results just from doing that.
I love that. Okay, that is a gem right there. So whether you're on keto or not, you can definitely partake in the morning ritual in order to help lose weight, maintain your weight, and just feel better overall. So why is it important not to have a carb-loaded breakfast?
You know, we've been taught that breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and we've been lied to, I believe. I would say breakfast is the dumbest meal of the day because if you look at our
Favorite
ancestors,
meal
I
though.
know, I know. I mean, you don't have to have it in the morning, is what I'm
Yeah.
saying. You could have
Okay.
your breakfast meal later on. But, you know, if we look at our ancestors, they didn't crawl out of a cave and have a whole bunch of oatmeal and cereal and these breakfast foods. It just didn't happen. So if you look at the human body, we're hardwired for the old school. We're still hardwired the way our ancestors were, meaning we're not designed to eat a big breakfast. So the reason I love switching and swapping your carbohydrate breakfast for a fatty cup of coffee is this. When you eat a carb-loaded breakfast, your body's gonna spike glucose in the body. So when you think of glucose, think of just sugar, blood sugar in the body. Your body needs to deal with that because high levels of glucose is toxic to the body. So your body has to pack that away. So you get a high spike of glucose. insulin, which is another hormone, takes the glucose out of the body and puts it into your cells, brings down blood glucose in the body. When insulin does that, insulin drops. So what happens next is your energy levels start to drop as well. And then you have more cravings, and it's just vicious cycle of up and down energy levels, and you're reaching for a protein bar or another snack just to get that hit of glucose.
Yeah.
That's not fun, especially if you're an entrepreneur and you want to crush your day. It's not fun. Or if you're traveling, it's just such a burden on your shoulders. But when you switch and you follow what we're saying here and you have a cup of coffee, you throw in some healthy fats, we know that fat does not spike glucose and insulin. It does not even touch the dial on insulin. So it gives you stable energy levels with calories still and those nutrients in fat-soluble vitamins. So it tastes good, helps you feel good, and it helps your body tap into its fat stores. So there's so many benefits to switching your carbohydrate breakfast for a fatty coffee. If you did that at least 5 days out of the week, you'll see significant results.
So how long would you say, for someone who's not intermittent fasting or following keto per se, how long would you say to wait after your morning fat coffee to have carbohydrates?
I would say to maybe double up the dosage for the coffee. So I said I have 1 tablespoon of each. Maybe you have 2, and then you don't have anything until lunchtime. That's what I would recommend.
So for those people who are highly addicted to coffee and have multiple cups a day, what is your advice on how to maintain or balance your coffee consumption? What's the rule of thumb that you follow or recommend?
Well, I have this cool little coffee hack I'm going to share with you right now. It's my
Okay.
90-minute rule.
Okay.
I don't know if you've seen me talk about it before, but the 90-minute rule is this. If you wait 90 minutes after waking up to have your cup of coffee, you get much more bang for your buck and much more from that caffeine, so you don't have to get that second, third, or fourth cup in the afternoon. And here's the reason why. When we wake up in the morning, our hormone cortisol is already activated because when the sun goes up, the body will raise cortisol to help give you some energy to get through the day. It's just a natural occurrence in the human body. Like I said, we're hardwired for the old school.
Right.
So the body will raise cortisol, and cortisol is much, much more powerful than caffeine. So when you have your coffee, like first thing in the morning, cortisol is already elevated, and the caffeine will really not be utilized. The cortisol will. So that'll result in you wanting to have a second, third, fourth, fifth cup, maybe another cup in the afternoon. But if you wait 90 minutes, 60 to 90 minutes after you wake up, cortisol will begin to drop. Then you have your delicious cup of coffee. You get much more bang for your buck, so you don't have to get that second, third, or fourth cup. So I would do that 90-minute rule to start.
Yeah, I like that.
And then your other question was, is there like a general rule of thumb to how many days in a row? There's not really. You gotta see how your body is reacting to it. I think a good test is go a day without it, and if you get like those caffeine withdrawal headaches, then you probably should cut back for a week and then go back on or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm probably overdue for that for sure.
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah, because I love it so much as well. But as long as you're not having it too close to bed and all throughout the day, I don't really see a big issue with it. I really don't, unless you're somebody who is very adrenal fatigued, but most people are not. So I don't have an issue with it. Yeah.
So other than the amazing taste, the amazing smell, the health benefits, how else would you say coffee has positively impacted your life?
Well, it allowed me to speak with you today because of your awesome show.
Being here.
Yeah, so that's one benefit. We got to connect on Zoom here. It's also, it helps me connect with my friends and my family when we have a cup of coffee or some have tea together.
Yeah.
It's a form of connection. And right now during this quarantine, we're social distancing, so we value that when we can do that again.
Yeah.
So to have conversations like this and just to be able to have coffee, can't wait to have another cup of coffee with a whole bunch of my friends, right? Because right now we're advised not to do so. So that's a big benefit because as human beings, we're social creatures and we really enjoy these conversations. And if you could do that with a cup of coffee and some good laughs and conversation, that's priceless.
Yes, I agree. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. That was my whole mission. I wanted to build something around bringing people together and having that community aspect so that I can take that and run with it and be able to put on events and connect different people. And I'm seeing that come together. Obviously, we have you now, and I'm super grateful for this. So yeah, coffee and connection. It is that universal language that brings people together just like love. So I appreciate that you appreciate that as well.
Amen.
Yes. Coffee with Kaylee is your weekly mind hack for getting better focus and better results. So what is one positive quote that you want to leave us with, and how we can apply it to our life to have better focus and better results?
Yeah, so it goes back to Wayne Dyer when he said, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So I will say, whatever you want to create in this world, it starts with your thoughts. If you are having a negative experience, it's just a matter of shifting your perspective, shifting your thoughts, and then what you're experiencing will be a positive experience. So if you want to change your life, it starts with changing your thoughts, and that includes your mental focus, your production, your clarity. It all starts right here, and that's a beautiful quote from the great and late Wayne Dyer.
Yes, yes. Oh man, he's a brilliant man, and I love that you brought him up, because he was part of my beginning process of launching Love You Mean It Coffee. And I was reading his books, and it was really about that thought process. So I can relate to that totally, and I appreciate that quote. That's a really good one.
Right on.
Oh, awesome. Well, thank you so, so much, Ben. I really appreciate it. This is my first ever interview with Coffee with Kaylee, and I'm so stoked that it was you. I've been trying to connect with you, and we've been following each other on social media. I really appreciate what you're doing and your messaging. So tell us, where can everyone find you?
Right back at you. I love your work, and you're doing some great things out there. So thank you for showing up in this world that needs it so much right now. So I appreciate you. I think YouTube would probably be the best if you type in Keto Kamp, Camp with the K, and Instagram is at the Ben Azadi. And then if you listen to the podcast, my Keto Kamp podcast would be a good option as well.
All right. Well, thank you so much. With that said, I hope everyone has an amazing rest of your week. Go follow Ben Azadi everywhere you can, and digest his instant clips of just knowledge and gem after gem after gem. He's got so much knowledge to share with you, whether you are or are not on the keto diet. So I highly recommend you just go find it for yourself. But thank you again. I appreciate it, and I hope you have a great day.
Thank you, Kaylee. Appreciate you.